Hello and welcome to today's presentation. Today we will be discussing how can we secure our Azure Point to Site VPN. And I think this topic is very relevant in the recent terms because of the corona impact that pandemic that we all are facing. And most of the organizations are running different remote access solutions to help and make sure that their employees can continue working most efficiently and in a most secure way. I hope this would help many of those organizations and many of us who are using Azure Point to Site VPN, and we'll see how can we make it more secure, right? We would be leveraging different features here from Azure. Obviously, Azure Directory, multi-factor authentication, Azure Firewall, DNS, VPN gateways, and private link. Having said that, I just want to start this session with one thought, which I think is very important as a security personnel, that security should always be an enabler and not a blocker, right? And with that mindset, we would see that what the solution brings into. And before I get into the actual demo, and I will try to keep it short, one thing that I like to mention here that there are several other videos, and if you're watching my video for the first time, I would encourage you to go and look into my YouTube channel, and you might find several other topics, several other live interesting demos that may be of interest to you. With that, let's try to understand what business, what technical or what security challenges we are trying to address with the solution, so that then we can dive into the actual design and demo. So at a very high level, what we are trying to achieve here in this solution is we can use point to site VPN with Azure AD authentication. That's the first objective. And obviously, to make it more secure, we need to use Azure point to site VPN with multi-factor authentication. Now, in past, we have been trying to use it with the network policy server, which was a solution, but that added a additional complexity and one more component to manage, and obviously adds the operational overhead. But in this solution, Microsoft has come out with a new approach where you don't need a network policy server to configure the P2Site VPN or point to site VPN with MFA. So we'll see, and that's very interesting to see. It's very simple and it's very easy, and it's actually more powerful. So we'll see how can we leverage that. Now, because we are going to be using MFA here, we also need to see that can we leverage the point to site with conditional Azure access, and we will be able to see that in our demo. We also want to put this VPN gateway behind the firewall in our hub network, and that's our another challenge, in making sure that everything works fine, and we can also control all VPN traffic through your whatever firewall solution you're using, right? That's the overarching goal of this presentation. It is pretty short but crisp, and I think it is valuable. Let's get into the actual design, how we are going to accomplish that. And if you see here in this presentation here, what's happening is the VPN client tries to connect to the VPN gateway, and as soon as he gets to the VPN gateway and tries to establish a secure SSTP tunnel here, the VPN gateway sends the users to an Azure AD authentication. And once the Azure AD is authenticating as a multi-factor authentication, the users get a prompt on their phone to do the second authentication through the phone factor. Once the authentication is received, the authentication is passed to the VPN gateway or virtual network gateway, and from there a secure tunnel is established on a SSTP IP IEv2 type of tunnel, right? And once that tunnel is established, the traffic as far as the networking is concerned goes to the firewall. In our scenario, it is an Azure firewall. It could be anything else in your environment, which is sitting in your perimeter network, which is our hub network here. And these hub networks are paired with the spoke VNets, as you see in this diagram. Once the traffic is all routed there, and we are going to use the routing table. So first of all the VPN traffic from the VPN gateway would be routed for these spoke VNet to our Azure firewall. The firewall would be allowed the traffic to go from the virtual network, the VPN gateway that is coming into these spoke network. At the same time, the spoke networks would be configured with the route table or UDR to send all outbound traffic through the firewall, and firewall would be allowed to send the outbound traffic. Now, with this architecture in mind, what happens is that first of all, you have a secure SSTP IEV2 tunnel which is authenticated through Azure Active Directory and multi-factor. All the traffic goes inside, inbound traffic or ingress traffic is going through your firewall. That's a single point of entry, and that's where you can put all the controls and monitoring. So single pane of glass from monitoring perspective and control perspective. As well, our outbound traffic from these spoke networks is also going through the Azure firewall as far as the egress traffic is concerned. So we have a single point of control, monitoring, and any other intelligence that we might need to put in here, right? That could be an Azure firewall, that could be a Palo Alto firewall, or any other appliance that you want to use. And that makes this solution pretty secure, right? That's the overarching goal. Now, how do we achieve that? And let's just get into the live demo in a real action. So I'm going to pause it and take you to my Azure portal. All right, folks, so we are here at our Azure portal, and as we looked into our slide deck earlier, we would be working with the 3 resource groups here, and one of them is NAAG PRM, which is our perimeter resource group. I have already provisioned some resources so that we don't have to waste time in doing that and the video stays shorter. So the key content of this resource group is an Azure Firewall. We have a perimeter VNet, which has the right subnets into that, and we also have a routing table created. We have yet not configured. And we have the VPN gateway created here, right? So that's very straightforward. The VPN gateway requires the gateway subnet. Azure Firewall requires the Azure Firewall subnet, all configured. And for those folks who have not done the point to site configuration in the past, it's pretty straightforward and simple. Key requirement for this solution is that the one that you need to make sure that you noted when you experiment it or test it, please do not use the basic SKU. That's not going to work and you're going to waste your time. So use the right SKU, either not the basic SKU, any other SKU should work. That's the first point. The second point of configuration, once you have deployed the VPN gateway, which would generally take about 25 to 30 minutes to be provisioned, you come here to the point to site configuration and configure your address pool for your VPN client. You can pick up anything that you like. You test your call. You choose the IKEV to SSTP tunnel. You need to have the root certificate that you will be using from the end client perspective. This is the root certificate. You need to export it into the DER64-bit, copy the certificate, paste it here, and you're good to go. Obviously, you need to have the private key of this certificate deployed on each client, VPN client, and that's all this configuration is about, right? So this is already done. The second resource group that we have here in this demo is HR or resource group, where we have a VM that we would be connecting for our demo purposes, which is this VM here. Nothing fancy. We have a VNet here that this VM is using, and these VMs have no public IP addresses, right? So we don't want them to be exposed, and they would be all connecting through the point to site VPN. Identical environment is another resource group here, just to make sure that our hub and spoke topology works fine. This is another one. And I also have the route table created already, not configured yet. We'll configure it together. And we have another VM here that we will connect it and make sure that our solution works, right? So that's where we are. Now, excuse me. In order to move forward, the first thing that we need to do is we need to create an Azure VPN Active Directory enterprise application, right? So I don't think I have it as of now. If I go to Azure Active Directory, and I look for the enterprise application, I should not have provisioned it. And for that, one of the key requirements for this step is that this is only possible through the global administrator account, right? So you need the global administrator privileges. So we are looking for an Azure VPN application, which I don't think we have it. And in order to get that application, we need to give the consent to our Active Directory to create that application. And let's do it in the next step, okay? So this is the URL that we need to connect to as a global administrator. And it will prompt me to log in as a global administrator. I believe this is my global administrator. And once I accept it, it should create this Azure VPN application inside my Active Directory. It might ask me again. I expected that. And that's all, right? So now if I go back into my Azure Active Directory here, I should be able to see that application that we were trying to create, which was not present earlier, right? So if I go here, enterprise application, all application, apply, and then I search for Azure VPN. This is the application that is key for, here you go. So we got our application created here. This application would be the key element for Active Directory integration and MFA, right? So we'll see how we come across here in a few minutes, but that's our first task. All right, in order to integrate our virtual network gateway with Azure Active Directory to allow the multi-factor authentication, we need to run certain commands, PowerShell commands. So connect to PowerShell, and first is that we are getting into the variable for our the VPN gateway. My VPN gateway name is NAAZ VPN. The source group is this, so we will execute this command, and then we will get the certificate here. Very straightforward. So I think I executed those two commands already. So I connected to my subscription, then I got the variable, and I also got the certificate. The key thing that you might want to see here is that VPN client configuration and client protocol is SSTP, which is a secure service tunnel tunnel protocol, and then IKEv2. So basically our tunnel would always be encrypted, so you can ensure that your data and your traffic between your VPN client and Azure is always encrypted. That's important to understand. And then we are going to run the last command here, which is where we are going to actually integrate it to the this VPN gateway with Azure Active Directory. Is going to change the authentication. The key thing that you need to change in this command is to get your tenant ID or Active Directory identity, right? This is what I already captured here, this particular value. And if you want to see it in the portal, you can always go to the portal and Active Directory, where I'm already in Active Directory. So if I go to the properties right here, right, the directory ID, you can just copy it, this value. And once I get into the command back again, so that's first thing. The second thing that you will see here, that in this command STS, this is a token here, that's where you are also changing the GUID of your Active Directory or tenant ID. And last but not the least, you also have to make sure that your IPs, VPN client IPs, are matching here, right? So mine is 10.185. If you remember that, we did that. Let's double check it quickly. And we can go to the resource group here. We can go to the PRM resource group, and we can go to our VPN gateway, and making sure that this is 10.185.2 site configuration, and it is 10.85.0.0. Right now it is Azure certificate. Once we turn the command, it would change it to Azure Active Directory, right? So we'll see it momentarily once we execute this command successfully. So going back here, and let's copy that command and execute it. So I'm going to do this here. And making sure that you leave the VPN client protocol as OpenVPN. Don't change it, right? So this is another thing that we need to keep in mind. Let's run this command. It might take a few minutes to execute it. I'm going to pause it, and as soon as it is completed, we'll continue our demo. So this was successfully completed, and now we would see that our authentication on the VPN client or point to site VPN should change it to Azure Active Directory. Also want to make sure that when we were checking the client IP, right, you will see here the address prefixes here 1085.00.24. You would also see the command that we ran it last time, right? This when we were trying to get the certificate here. Before we ran the command, you will see your client IPs, VPN client IPs suffixes here too. So this particular should match with this your client address pool here, otherwise it's gonna fail on you, right? So just want to make sure. Now we are good. Let's see whether our authentication has changed into from IE/KV to type 2. Now see here to Azure Active Directory, and we are good to go. So basically now either the users can download the VPN client from here, or alternatively you could run this command here, and that would take you to the URL to download this one, right? So if you go here, profile, copy, and do I have captured it right? Okay, I think no. NAZ VPN and PRMRD. Okay, so I think we're good. Let's change it here. So if I run this here, I didn't copy. That's your VPN client configuration. Basically, that's the profile that you could share with the users, right? So that's what we are trying to do. Or you could download the client from there. So we got the URL here, right? That's what, as to get the actual download here, you just need to copy the URL, and it will let you download the configuration profile for this VPN, right? So and I can save it here. Or alternatively, as I mentioned earlier, we can go to our VPN client back here, and we can download the VPN client, one and the same thing, right? So if the users have rights to your Azure portal, which I hope they might have, right? So they can just come here and download the client there. So either way, whatever works for you. With this, we have actually configured the VPN point to site VPN with Azure MFA. From the end user perspective, they need to download the client, the VPN client from Windows Store. So if you go into the Windows Store here from my machine, I already did that, but Store here, and in the store you will download the Azure VPN client. Search here Azure VPN, you get the client here. You download it and install it. Once you're done, you can launch. I can launch it right here because I already installed it. I can launch it, and then you can add the connection, right? So you can go here and let's unzip that file first. So the one that we downloaded here. Quickly, desktop, VPN configuration zip. Extract all. Okay, so we have it here, and going back into the VPN client, we can add a new connection and import, and we have desktop here, VPN configuration, add your VPN. Here's your config XML file, open it, and you can name it the way you like. I would like here demo dash VPN. Save it, and I'm good to go, right? So I can connect it. Basically, keep in mind that you have to have the certificate Otherwise this is not going to work, right? So I want to show you this quickly. To establish the secure tunnel here, you have to have the certificate for that particular corresponding certificate to the root certificate that you have done. Otherwise it's not going to work. So now we're going to try to connect it. So I'm logging in here. Let's see if it prompts me for MFA, and it does. I should be getting the MFA code momentarily, and 590.639. Doing this here. I think it might give me a small glitch because I'm not registering it, but we'll see. Good. And we are connected, right? So now we are connected. What we have accomplished so far is that we are now able to use Azure Point to Site VPN with Active Directory integration and MFA, but we have yet not configured the routing here, which is also an integral part of it. Having said that, if you go back into this application that we created, where we can now use the conditional Azure access here too, right? So many of you might already be familiar with here, but if you see here the properties of this application here, first of all, we have the enable for the user to sign in, which obviously has to be yes. Now user assignment required, if I say yes, then we can select that who are those users or the groups that you would allow the VPN connection. So that is now under your control. So we don't leave it wide open here. So this gives you a flexibility here of configuring it. Obviously you can keep it visible to the users in the my apps URL, myapps.microsoft.com, or you can hide it. That doesn't make much difference, but this is very important that whether you want to control it here or not. So this gives you an additional layer of security and security control and compliance control, that who actually would be able to connect to your VPN. That's pretty important. In addition to that, you can also do all other conditional access here. You can configure security, you can apply a new policy here, and your MFA with the conditional Azure access would also work with your organization architecture or trusted network. So if your users are coming from within the network, within your organizational network, then they would not be prompted for an MFA. But if they're coming from untrusted network, they would be required to do the MFA. It goes with all the bells and whistles. You will see all Azure Active Directory authentication, risky authentication, that all ties back together. So now you have a solution that from the VPN perspective, which so far was insecure in my viewpoint, because you have no idea who and how you're controlling it. You have a control here from, first of all, from Active Directory authentication perspective. Secondly, a multi-factor authentication perspective. Third is a conditional Azure access. Fourth, you also mixture of trusted network and untrusted networks. On top of it, it also has all the required logging that you are going to take the advantage of Azure Active Directory. So this becomes a very powerful solution. Having said that, this is still not going to be able to connect to the required VMs. So we need to do some additional routing here, which I would start doing it now. And once I complete that, and I'll show you what that routing looks like. Okay. All right, guys. So let's now configure the networking part of it, because we have already made this successful established connection on secure point to site VPN with MFA. That was an accomplishment. And now let's move into the routing configuration. So first, what we need to do is to send all the traffic from the VPN gateway to the Azure firewall, right? So that's the first thing that we need to fix it. I already did that, and I need to go to the route table here. And what we are saying here is that anything inbound should be the 172.19.1.4 is the internal IP of my firewall. And what we are saying that any traffic that you need to send it to 10.1.0, which is our HR VNet, where we have the VM number 1, and the second VM is in HR, the SL VM, which is in the VNet 2, should be sent to the firewall. This is the firewall internal IP address. So we are forcing all the traffic from the VPN to go to the firewall, right? So whatever your spoke VNets are, you need to configure that address, and you need to configure, for an example here, this is what we should be doing. If I go to the routes here, and I can add a route, for an example, you will put the route name, whatever, and you will have the subnet, and the element here is that you'll put a virtual appliance and internal IP of your firewall, right? That's very straightforward. So that's what we already did. Now moving forward, that what we also have to make sure that our route VNets in the resource group, they can send the traffic outbound to the firewall. So now let's go to the HR resource group where we have the VMs that we will be testing, and we go to the route table here, and you will see we have done the same thing. All outbound traffic ingress is going to go to the firewall internal IP address. Same way our IP address for our VNet client should also go to this. This is very important. Generally you will miss it because you will think this is going to work. No, but this is required here. Unless you do that, this doesn't work, right? So I have tested it multiple times, making sure that your VPN client VNet is also sent to your firewall. Identically, we also did it for another resource group. So if you see here, and the route table, and you have the same thing here, right? Now and then you have to associate with the right subnet, which is what we already did. Same case there, right? So if you see the subnet here, that's the subnet it is attached to. Remember that when we created that route table for the VNet, the VPN gateway, right here, you cannot have, in this one, you cannot have 0.0.0/0, right? All outbound traffic cannot be configured on this route table if you try to associate that with that gateway subnet, because it is associated with the gateway subnet. It's not going to let you do that. So don't add 0.0.0/0 VNet here, or the address here on the gateway routing table, right? So pretty straightforward. We have done that. Now once we have done that, we also need to make sure that we configure our firewall appropriately. And let's get to the firewall. That's our firewall, and we have created certain rules here, right? So if you go here, network rule collection, I have one rule collection here. The first thing what we did here is the firewall ingress, which is just allowing our firewall to be able to send the traffic to outbound. Then we have got the SL egress, right? So this is what we are allowing that route table that you created on the SL VNet, which is the sales group VNet, where we have VM. Because you ask that traffic to come to the firewall, but unless you allow firewall to send the traffic to outbound, you cannot do that, right? So what we did here is we are allowing any traffic coming from that VNet to go to any destination. Now in this scenario, this is a demo, so I just put **, but if you want to limit to a certain specific locations or sites, you could do that, right? You can control it here. Same is the HR ingress, which is where we are allowing those VMs that are in this VNet to go outbound to the internet, right? So this is where it is, and you can control it if you want, or more specifically. You can disallow certain sites here because this is where you are allowing the traffic here, right? Now, and the VPN inbound is pretty straightforward. The VPN client IP addresses that needs to come inside. This is the VNet that we choose for the VPN clients. And if you keep going down here, this is the IP address of the gateway or the gateway subnet, 172.168.1.0, and then I also put, just for the safety sake, the public IP of the VPN gateway. That's it. Once we do that, this is slightly tricky. If you make it, if you miss any step here, then you're gonna get into trouble. Now, are we all good now? Not really, because we have not missed a very important component, which is the peering. So far, our hub network and spoke networks are not talking to each other. So unless we figure that out, this is not going to work. So we're going to go here back into the virtual networks, and please take a special note here. And on the PRM VNet, what we are going to do here is that we have created the firewall and the peering here, peering. So we have done the peering, and take a special note here, right? So this is where we are peering this PRM VNet with the HR VNet here. Now the key thing here is that you have to turn the enabled on, and you also have to turn the allow gateway transit on the VNet where you firewall VNet. You cannot do it on the other side, right? And if you go on the other side, it would automatically choose the remote gateway. So this is a key configuration. Make sure you are enabled here, and you do this here. So let me go back here, this one, and then show you the other side of it. So if I go to the HR VNet and I go to the peering, and it is paired with the firewall VNet, and you'll see this is also enabled here, but it is using the remote gateway. So if you don't do this configuration, then you're going to run into trouble, right? All set. Now we can test our solution, right? Basically, let's make sure that our secure VPN is working. Here you go. We are already connected, as I showed you last time. Let's go to a VM and try to connect it, right? So virtual machines, and let's see whether we can jump in here. And NA is the VM01, which is using 10.2.01. The VNet is the one that we already paired here, right? NA is the VM, and this is the VNet we already paired. We have already associated the rules. So if you go to the overview, and that would be the conclusion of this video actually. Once we do that, RDP, and if I can connect it here, voila, right? So I am here. And if I can connect to that VM successfully, we are golden. And here I go, right? So he's connecting here. We can also try with another VM. And if I go to here, connect, okay. Well, I'm on VM03. Connect, RDP. Now this is 1.0, which is a different VM, different spoke. And it is connecting as well, right? So keep in mind, guys, we do not have any public IP on these VMs. So they are all connected through a secure point to site VPN, and we are able to hit these sites here, right? You can also do for storage and other stuff using private links. I'm not going to go in that. I already had created a video yesterday around storage and private links and using the VPN there. If you want to watch that, it will show you how you connect to your storage through the VPN, through the private links, right? So I don't want to make this video long here. And if I go here, I can sign out successfully here from this guy. And then I can sign out from the other guy. Gracefully sign out in this terminal session. And then we are good, right? So now we have accomplished everything that we wanted to. So that concludes this session. But that means first of all, we were able to, in the conclusion side, we were able to successfully establish a point to site VPN using Azure AD authentication, using MFA, establishing a secure tunnel between the VPN client and Azure tenant. And then we were able to get into we configure all the required routing component of it. so that these VMs can connect to the actual destination location, right? Or your VPN plan connect to the different Azure resources. So that's pretty much it, guys, and I think you would it makes sense, and it helped you. Thank you for your time, and have your rest of your best of day or a night wherever you are, and talk again in our next presentation. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.